Okay, so you're here, which means, you're curious, right? I got to say, we kind of dig that about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what this whole deep dive thing is all about. Like cutting through all the noise and getting right to the heart of what really matters. No fluff, just pure insight. And today, well, we're going deep, but in a super focused way.
You got it.
We're zeroing in on a specific part of this text. We're talking Arkan XV, pages 270 to 306. No more, no less.
That's the Zoom, yeah. And believe me, those pages, they're not just random pages.
Right.
This section of Arcana XD, it really takes us into this fascinating, and honestly, I think you'll find surprisingly relatable stage of like how humans evolve, how our consciousness kind of unfolds.
Okay, so Arkan XV, pages 270 to 306. Paint the picture for us. What's the core, the essence of what we're trying to uncover here in this, this focused exploration?
At its core, it's all about this point in our development, as humans, where this like distinct sense of separation pops up. It's not just, oh, I'm separate from you. It's like deeper than that. It's a whole stage with its own like characteristics, things that can trip us up, and really getting it, understanding it, can give you a totally new way to see how our consciousness develops, how we become who we are.
So let's trace this evolutionary path. Where does it all begin, according to these pages? What's the starting point in this journey they describe?
So they lay out these phases, right? And it kicks off with what they call semi-animal drowsiness.
Semi-animal drowsiness.
Yeah, it's a state where it's more about instinct, less about, deep self-awareness. It's like that primal state, almost.
Gotcha.
And then the focus, it shifts outward. You start engaging with the world around you, all the stuff happening outside yourself.
Okay.
But here's the thing. That outward engagement, it eventually leads to this feeling of like, wait, is this all there is?
Yeah. It's like you hit a wall and you're like, there's got to be something more to all of this.
Exactly. That dissatisfaction, it's built in almost. It's this like inherent yearning for something deeper, something more meaningful.
So true, right? That feeling that there's got to be more to the picture. What happens next in this unfolding? What does Arkan XT say?
Well, after that dissatisfaction, we enter what the text calls an era of conscious sadness and global yearn.
Conscious sadness and global yearning.
Yeah, and this is a big jump because it's not just like, oh, I'm bummed about this one thing. It's a deeper awareness of our own limits, what we can't do, what we don't know. And it's not just personal anymore. It's this broader sense of searching, like the whole world is yearning for something.
Interesting.
And here's a curious thing they emphasize. Solitude, being alone, it becomes really important in this phase.
Really? Solitude is like a key ingredient in our evolution.
That's what they're suggesting, yeah.
It's funny, though, when you think about it, it's often in those moments of quiet, when we're by ourselves, that those deeper longings, those questions, really start to surface. So where does this period of solitude and, this global yearning lead us? What's the next step in this Arkan XV roadmap?
Okay, so the text is super clear that this whole path, this whole journey, it's about experiential self-knowledge.
Experiential self-knowledge, okay.
It's not just about blindly accepting rules or what some authority figure tells you. It's about learning through your own experiences, getting your hands dirty, And it's at this really critical point, like as we're starting to claim our individuality, that strong myself feeling.
Right.
But also at the same time, we're recognizing that we're connected to something bigger, like a cosmic whole.
Yeah.
That something unexpected pops up, and they call it Satanism.
Whoa, hold on a second. Satanism, that's a pretty loaded term, right? Not exactly what you'd expect in a text about, self-discovery and evolution.
You're picking up what I'm putting down. In the context of Arkan XB, and this is super important, it's with a lowercase s.
Lowercase, okay.
It's not about devil worship or anything like
Sure.
that. It's representing this stage, a necessary stage, even though it can be kind of risky in this whole climbing the evolutionary ladder thing. It's about that surge of individual will, that hardcore declaration of, this is me, this is who I am.
So it's about that pure I am moment, like drawing a line in the sand and establishing your own independent identity.
You got it. And they make this really important point. Real conscious self-denial, letting go of ego that only happens after you've fully owned your individuality.
Interesting.
After you've seen its limitations, after you've lived it, it flips the script on all that traditional spiritual advice. Like you can't truly let go of what you haven't fully grasped in the first place.
That's a really interesting point. You need to own your individuality before you can truly transcend it. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it makes sense. So, what are some of the dangers, the potential pitfalls that Arkan XV highlights as we navigate this stage of self-discovery?
One big one is superficial beauty.
Okay.
It's like in this phase, we're easily fooled by surface appearances, mistaking them for real worth. It's like being mesmerized by the shiny wrapping paper, but not caring what's inside the gift.
Yeah, we've all fallen for that at some point, haven't we? That initial attraction to something flashy that turns out to be, well, pretty empty.
It happens. And then another potential trap they point out is asceticism.
Asceticism, okay.
Yeah, and I know it's often seen as this virtuous path, right?
Right.
But here they're saying that jumping into asceticism too soon can actually be a way of dodging life, of avoiding the full experience of being human. It's like trying to judge a whole movie just by watching the trailer.
So the idea to fully embrace the material world, to really experience our desires before we even think about detaching from them.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting from this section, for sure. They also bring in this interplay between will and heart.
Will and heart, okay.
Yeah, they're saying there's this natural tension between our drive to assert ourselves, to be independent, and our capacity for connection and empathy. It's like this constant balancing act that we all have to deal with.
That push and pull between wanting to be our own person and also wanting to belong, to be part of something bigger. It's like built into us, right?
Totally. And this is where it gets really interesting. Bring it back to that Satanism idea. Remember, lower cases. The text gives us this really insightful psychological interpretation.
Okay.
They're saying the stage is like the self-awareness of the spirit that's kind of forgot in love. And because of that, it becomes like lifeless.
Huh.
It's not about being deliberately evil, but more like a spiritual emptiness that comes from this disconnect, from not feeling that love, that connection.
That's a powerful way to look at it. So it's not some external evil force, but an internal state of being that's missing something vital.
Exactly. And so moving on within this section, pages 270 to 306, the text kind of touches on what it calls the laws of association.
Laws of association, okay.
Yeah, and how they relate to this stage of development, this point where we're figuring out our individual selves.
So how does our way of connecting with the world, with others, how does that start to change during this period of intense self-discovery and potential separation that Arkan XV describes?
Well, they're suggesting that our whole sense of association, like how we connect with things, undergoes a major shift.
Okay.
They mention these areas of activity for association, but they don't really spell them out in detail.
Right.
But it seems like they're talking about a lot, like our relationships, our communities, that whole feeling of interconnectedness. It's like the very foundation of how we relate to others is being reassessed.
So it's not necessarily about isolating ourselves completely, but the way we connect, the basis for those connections, that's what's changing. It's less automatic, more conscious, maybe.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And importantly, they make a distinction between association and instinct and also association and logic.
Okay.
Like, think about it. Instinct, it's that immediate automatic bond like a baby and its mother, right?
Right.
And logic, it's about connections based on shared interests or like practical needs. But the text is pointing at something beyond those, a way of connecting that's more deliberate, more deeply understood, something that aligns with this new sense of self that we're developing.
That makes sense. As we build this stronger individual identity, we're also more intentional about who we connect with, right? It's not just gut feeling or pure logic anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then Arkan XV goes even deeper into the genesis of Satanism in the inner world, which gives us more insight into this internal transformation that we're talking about.
Okay, let's break down this inner genesis idea. What are the key forces at play inside of us during this stage? What does the text say?
Well, they introduce these two concepts, divine will and dynamic will.
Divine will and dynamic will.
Yeah. They don't get super specific here, but the idea seems to be that our individual will, what they call the dynamic will, it starts to separate itself from this larger, more universal divine will. It's almost like a branch growing off the main trunk of a tree.
So that myself thing we talked about before, that's basically the dynamic will, that individual will, saying, hey, I'm over here doing my own thing.
Exactly. And get this, they even mention a mathematical analysis of this whole problem.
Mathematical analysis? Whoa, hold on. Math and spirituality.
I know, right? That's super intriguing.
Yeah.
And they don't really elaborate on the details in this section, but the fact that they even bring it up, it suggests there might be this really intricate structure, like a hidden blueprint, underlying this whole process of how we separate, how our individual emerges. It definitely makes you wonder what kind of framework they're hinting at.
A mathematical analysis of spiritual evolution? That's some serious food for thought. Okay, so what else does this inner Genesis section reveal?
They contrast these two aspects, the divine and the demonic.
Demonic, okay.
Yeah, but remember, lowercase s, same idea. Demonic here isn't about evil in the traditional sense. It's more about the forces of separation and individual assertion taken too far, without that balance of connection and understanding, like cranking up the I and forgetting about the we.
So it's about the potential for things to get out of whack as we navigate this newfound sense of self and our, dynamic will.
Exactly. And here's another interesting thing. They actually state a criterion for distinguishing between these aspects, the divine and the demonic. But they don't explicitly say what that criterion is.
Ah, so they're leaving us hanging a bit.
A little bit, yeah. It makes you think, what could that key factor be? Maybe it's about the motivation behind our will or the effect it has on our relationship with ourselves and the world around us. It's something to ponder.
It definitely is. All right, so let's shift gears a bit. They talk about the harmony of life and knowledge in these pages. How does this stage of separation, this emergence of the dynamic will, how does that tie into our overall sense of balance?
They really emphasize this striving for harmony as a big part of this evolutionary phase.
Okay.
They talk about inner and outer thinking. It's like as our sense of self becomes more defined, our internal world, all our thoughts and feelings and beliefs, it becomes super important in how it interacts with our experiences and relationships out in the world. It's about making sure those two things are aligned, the inside and the outside.
That makes sense, right? Understanding ourselves is key to navigating the world around us effectively.
Exactly. They also touch on why we might lose that balance and ways to restore it.
Okay.
It ties back into that tension we talked about earlier between asserting ourselves and connecting with others, between will and heart. Finding that sweet spot, that equilibrium, it's presented as essential for inner and outer harmony.
So it's a constant process of adjustment then, like recalibrating ourselves to find that balance.
Exactly. And they make this super insightful point about empathy. They straight up say, to understand a person, you need to put yourself in their place.
Oh, that's good.
It's like even as we're becoming more individual, recognizing our separateness, being able to connect with and understand others on that emotional level, that empathy, it's still crucial for a harmonious life.
Empathy is a key to balance, even as we become more aware of our individual selves. That's a powerful connection.
And they take it a step further, connecting it to the harmony of knowledge.
Harmony of knowledge, okay.
They're suggesting that understanding this very stage of separation, this whole thing you're talking about from Arcana XV, it's crucial for a more complete, a more balanced understanding of ourselves and our journey as humans.
Huh.
By really grappling with this phase of individual assertion and all the potential traps that come with it, we get a richer, more nuanced perspective on the whole evolutionary process, the big picture.
So understanding the satanic stage, lowercase s, not as something inherently bad, but as a natural, even essential part of our development, it actually helps us understand ourselves and humanity better.
Exactly. It's about incorporating something that might seem negative on the surface into a bigger, more holistic view of how we grow and evolve.
Well, this deep dive into Arcana XV, specifically pages 270 to 306, has definitely given us a lot to think about.
It has.
I mean, it's clear that this isn't about some external evil, some devil on your shoulder, right? It's about this critical and complex stage in our own personal evolution and the evolution of humanity as a whole.
For sure. It's all about this back and forth between asserting our independence, being our own person, and that deep human need for connection, for belonging. And I think the real takeaway here, the ha moment, is that this feeling of separation, even the strong assertion of self, this Satanism idea they bring up, it's not necessarily a wrong turn. It's part of the journey, It's part of becoming more self-aware. And ultimately, it can lead to a deeper understanding of where we fit into the grand scheme of things.
It's a really valuable lens to look through, isn't it? Especially when you think about all those struggles we all face with identity, with belonging, with that tension between what we want as individuals and this yearning for unity, for connection to something bigger.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, we want you to think about this. How has your own experience of feeling separate or independent shaped your journey of self-discovery?
Yeah, that's a good one.
And maybe even more importantly, how could you consciously reevaluate and nurture your connections? Could that be the next big step in your own evolution? We encourage you to really explore the nuances of this stage and what it might reveal about your own understanding of human nature and personal growth.
Really great food for thought. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And until next time, keep those minds curious and those hearts open.
Keep diving deeper.